Welcome, one and all, to the MLS Fantasy Cast. This is part one of two of our weekly show where we review the previous FMLS game week and preview the coming fixtures. That preview episode will be out sometime tomorrow or the day after today. We will be looking back at all the things that went wrong and right, more of the former for me, really, and likewise what may have happened to all of your teams as well. We will be going game by game, and then I will move on to my team, the players I picked, the ones I didn't, the ones I wish I would have, and I'll tell you right now, I have more than a few regrets for sure, but we will come back to that later. Right now, we're going to go ahead and get into the fixtures. If you do hear any dog or dog-related noises, my dog Pancake, the mascot for my team, for which it's named after, she just jingled her collar, so you may have definitely heard that, but she's hanging out as well, so if you hear any dog noises, that is what that is. But let's go ahead and get into it. Wednesday, February 21st, the kickoff of the 2024 Major League Soccer season. The final score was Miami 2, Salt Lake 0. Definitely, despite the scoreline, a game of two halves. The first half, Miami was pretty solid. The second half, not so much. Salt Lake decided they were going to press, and that helped quite a bit. Salt Lake were pretty poor this game. I mean, It's been a few days since I watched this game, so I'm sorry if I'm not my memory isn't 100% perfect on how it played out. But the second half, Miami kind of fell off, which was when Salt Lake started pressing. Every time Salt Lake got the ball, more or less throughout the whole game, they looked very confused, disorganized, didn't have a very good plan for what they were going to do with the ball. Especially Gomez going forward for Salt Lake was really poor. When he came off, they did a lot better. A lot of people have been talking about Suarez. I don't know how to feel about Luis Suarez right now. I don't want to overreact, to be honest, because I've seen a lot of people that I do think are borderline overreacting, especially about this first game. The second game against LA Galaxy, that's another story. But for this game, I thought Suarez was actually pretty decent. He didn't look very good doing anything. That's kind of the thing. He just, I think Twellman said last night, during the LA Galaxy game, that his limp is very noticeable. It's not even a limp, it's a hobble. I mean, he hobbles around the whole game. He doesn't look good. That's a fact. He looks bad. He looks bad even just moving around. But this first game, despite that, I thought he was pretty good. He played a little bit deeper than I expected him to, and that helped their build-up quite a bit. There was a lot of good connection between him and Messi, a lot of almost chances that where he played some pretty smart passes. I thought his movement was very good. Miami's pressing is a pretty big issue, though, with Suarez and Messi on the field. I mean, they're just, they're not able to press. They're just not able to. And that definitely caught up with them in the second half once Salt Lake started playing a little bit more progressively. But overall, I think Miami were decent to solid this game. And Salt Lake were poor in the first half. Second half, they were a little bit better. But a lot of games. So let's go ahead and move on. Columbus, Atlanta. I think Atlanta might just be a team that are still figuring it out a little bit. There's a lot of semi to new pieces in that team, and Columbus were better than I thought they were going to be. Guzan came in very clutch with that penalty save. He had a pretty good game in general, which I was surprised by. I really thought that Josh Cohen was going to start, but I think a 1-0 scoreline was probably fair. LAFC 2, Seattle 1. Surprised Seattle did as well as they did with all of the injuries that did come through for them. They played pretty well, all things considering. I'm basically predicting them to win the West. I think they're going to be one of the best teams in the league this year and a genuine contender. And so, it is one game, but with all the injuries they had, the level of play that they put out there, the performance they put in was impressive. And that being said as well, LAFC were solid as well. LAFC were pretty good. Bouanga especially. He was absolutely excellent. Orlando, Montreal. Didn't get a chance to watch this game, but I heard that Sirois played very well for Montreal. Maybe man of the match performance. I'm glad he got the start over, I think Sosa's the other goalkeeper. Sirois was very good last year. Deserving. Sounded like he had a good game. DC, New England. That red card proved to be disastrous for New England. Christian Benteke hat trick. Pretty surprising result. It'll be interesting to see whether DC can take any momentum forward from this game, or if really it was just that red card just sunk New England, and that was the end of that. Philadelphia 2, Chicago 2. Chicago put in a pretty good account of themselves in this game. It was very competitive. Brian Gutierrez was definitely man of the match. That one goal was a certified banger. It was a fantastic performance from him. I think Kuipers, their big money new Belgian striker up top was all right. He didn't really strike me as fantastic, but he was all right. But Brian Gutierrez, I think, was really the star of this game. But both teams played pretty decent. Charlotte 1, New York City 0. New York have a lot of figuring out to do. I'm not surprised that they struggled this game going forward, and I think they will continue to struggle going forward for a little bit. They have a lot of new young pieces coming together. It's going to take a little while before I think we really have a good idea of what this New York City team is. That being said, Charlotte, I think they missed a penalty that game as well, so it could have been 2-0, but defensively, they were very solid, got the goal. I'm not surprised that they performed well. I think Dean Smith is going to raise their level. I really do rate him as a MLS manager. It's a good pickup for them, and if they can add in some DPs in the summer, or just bring in some better players, then they could have a legitimate shot of making the playoffs. I think I've seen a lot of people mention them in the wooden spoon conversation. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Dallas 2, San Jose 1. Pretty shocking result for a very injury-plagued FC Dallas. Extremely young FC Dallas team as well. This was a massive, massive result for them. Dante Sealy scoring at the very end of the game to clinch the victory, and a pretty poor showing, I think, for San Jose. I've been a lot lower on San Jose this offseason and coming into the season than a lot of other people have been, and I did feel a little bit vindicated by that. St. Louis 1, Salt Lake 1. This was just not a great opening week for Salt Lake. Not a great opening week for Salt Lake. I know it was an away game, but they really should have won that game. They really should have. They've got a lot of issues with their cohesion building up, their shape off the ball, and their rest defense set. I can't tell what they're trying to do. They're not really committing to playing progressively or playing on the counter. I just don't think they know what they want to do right now. They're adjusting to life without Kraylock, without Savarino. It'll be very interesting to see what they look like in the coming weeks. But I'll tell you, I'm not very high on Salt Lake right now. Not very high on Salt Lake. That being said, St. Louis are probably lucky to get the draw. They weren't that good. Houston 1, KC 1. Neither of these teams were very good this game. I was definitely disappointed with Kansas City. They just, based on the rosters, they just should have done better. They're a finished project. This KC team isn't bringing in a lot of new stuff. They've had the same team for a while now, and they just don't look that way. Houston did well to get the draw. They did well to get the draw. Not a very good game. Not a great game. Austin 1, Minnesota 2. Not surprised by this at all. I think Austin are a bona fide wooden spoon contender. It'll be very interesting, I think, to see these bottom of the barrel MLS teams this year who comes in where, because honestly, there are a lot of teams this year that do not look good right now. That being said, Minnesota did well to get the victory with their new coach coming in. This was a good kind of early start for them. Portland 4, Colorado 1. This was the shock result of the week for me. If Colorado are going to be this bad, then I'm ready to have the Chris Armas, one of the worst MLS coaches of the century, conversations. I mean, this is a very good Colorado team. This is a great roster, and the stats kind of tell the story better than the scoreline does. It wasn't as one-sided as 4-1, but Colorado looked terrible. They had the worst rest defense I have ever seen in my entire life. Every time they lost the ball or turned it over, it was immediate. Didn't matter what the situation was. If they lost the ball, Portland was immediately running at them with a man advantage. It was crazy. It was genuinely a terrible team setup from Chris Armas on a very, very good roster. So I was shocked by this. I mean, Portland were good too. don't just want to rag on Colorado super hard. Portland were good as well. Anthony especially was very good. The better Anthony was very good. Um, but man, Colorado shocking. Cincinnati zip, Toronto zip. Toronto look a lot better than expected. Herdman has them firing. If he can get Bernadeschi and Insigne motivated, then this actually could be a fringe playoff team. They've got a shot. They were good. And this Cincinnati team is depleted. If Bupenza's not in the field for them, I am very worried about their offensive production. I think this Cincinnati team is under the radar significantly worse than last year. They have lost some serious pieces and I think have failed to replace them. And that is not an indictment on Oriano or any of the other players they've brought in, but they haven't done enough, whether those guys are any good or not. If Bupenza's not healthy, if he's not starting for them, then I do not feel good about Cincinnati. I also noticed Acosta seemed very frustrated this game early on. His body language throughout the game was really bad, and he had a difficult time adjusting to the pace as well. It took him a really long time to get into the game, find the right spots to be in. It was not his best game. It was not Cincinnati's best game, and Toronto were pretty good. They were pretty good. If they can get a 9 in there, then they could be seriously contending for a playoff spot. Nashville, New York. I did not watch this game. I heard it was boring. That's all I got to say about it. LA won. Miami won. I did watch this game. It was, for a while, it was 0-0 for a long time, and it was just about one of the best 0-0 games you'll ever see. Drake Callender was outstanding. Maybe performer of the whole week. For this game alone, he was excellent for Miami. They needed him to be. They were not good. LA Galaxy should have won this game. Miami was not good. Suarez, this game was not good. He could not get into the game at all. Just kind of when your target man just kind of vanishes. It was one of those games like that. It wasn't even that they weren't getting him service. They weren't trying to. A lot of this team just looks so confused and disjointed. Julian Gressel is fitting into this team strangely. I don't really understand what they're trying to do with him. Busquets had... This is not an overreaction. It's not like, a big name player, coming into MLS or gonna rag on this guy because it's easy. It's not that Busquets is an easy target. Busquets put in the worst performance I saw all week. He was genuinely abhorrent. He was awful. He was the worst player on the field by a country mile. Miraculously stayed in the game. He should have been sent off like 3 different times. He gave the ball away constantly. He gave away the penalty kick. He was awful. He was so bad. I cannot believe he played the whole game. I would have taken him out at halftime. He was god-awful. Redondo's coming into this team, and, maybe they'll play him besides Busquets. I think a double DM setup for this team, assuming Messi and Suarez both start, is weird. But honestly, maybe Busquets is going to need to play center back because there's no way he warrants a spot over Redondo. When Redondo comes into this team, he should be the starting DM. No matter what, he's going to raise the levels of this team. But man, I cannot get over how bad Busquets was. It's crazy. Jordi Alba was off it for a lot of the game, but towards the end, he definitely came into it, got the assist. Messi was pretty good. He was stranded often in the game, but it's kind of the same as Alba. Towards the end, he did find a way into it. Other than that, Galaxy looked pretty good. They look pretty good. Going forward with pacey wingers. It may just be Miami. MLS has gotten so much more physical than it used to be. A team like Miami that's that old and lacks a significant physicality to their play, it's hard to see how they're going to keep up with the rest of the league this whole year. I feel like the cracks in that are already showing. It will be fascinating to see what Miami look like going forward because they don't look good right now. They do not look good right now at all. So that is it for the fixtures. I'm now going to go on to my team. Okay, so I think this wasn't a bad week. Week 1 is kind of a crapshoot. This was not a bad week. And if I sound a little negative, I don't want to come off like a jerk because I am sitting at 998. I managed to sneak into the top 1,000 on week 1 where it's just chaos. Like, I don't want to come off like I'm complaining too much because this wasn't that bad. This wasn't that bad at all. But so much went wrong for me, and the game itself, frankly, is operating so poorly that there is a lot of reason to be frustrated. There are significant problems with the stat keeping. If you've been paying attention to MLS Fantasy throughout the weekend and the week, there are issues with, they've changed to a new stat keeper, and there are significant problems with that. It is not working as well. I don't know why they did it. I'm sure there's a real reason for it, but it's not good right now. There's a big problem with key passes. That is the second biggest issue, I think, to me, is they're giving out key passes like they're candy. I mean, Messi on here is got, I mean, for both games together, like I skipped key passes. He's got 23 key passes. I mean, that's absurd. I think genuinely this stat keeper might be weighting key passes as like almost any pass in the final third. I looked on, like, I think it was on One Football or something like that, and it had Messi's key passes for the whole weekend at like 8. I mean, that's a big problem, and I don't think it's gonna get fixed. There's an issue with like block shots. I think that's been fixed, but the key pass thing is a big issue. And it is adjusting the meta quite a bit. So I'll speak on that a little bit more when we come to my preview of next week and what I'm planning on doing. But basically, players who are making passes into the final third, wingers, attacking mids, those are the highest value players in the game right now, I think, by far. The biggest issue, and I don't think this will be fixed, I've tried to contact them about it. I've seen discussion about it, and I don't think they're going to fix it. I don't think it's a rule change. I think it's an error. But when a player goes out of the game, if his team concedes, he's still not getting a clean sheet point. So Pablo Ruiz came out in the 63rd minute. Salt Lake conceded later. He doesn't get a clean sheet point. That went for every player this week who got subbed out, then their team conceded. Here's my theory. I think that with the new stat keeping or something, it's a bug where it's counting, just any player on any team. If they concede, they lose their clean sheet point, and I think they're going to be too lazy to fix it. I straight up think they are. That's the most frustrating thing to me, is this clean sheet thing. I'm bewildered by it. It really grinds my gears, to be honest. It really frustrates me. So I don't think that'll be fixed. So defenders, even some midfielders, teams who can keep the most clean sheets this year, players from those teams on the defensive side are critical. It's a little bit more like FPL now, where I think a lot of the defensive game plan is just hunting clean sheets. It is this. I mean, it's the same for everyone. It's not like, anything against me or like an advantage for anybody. It's the same for everybody, but it does change the game works quite a bit, and I find that very frustrating. I think as well that the player values are a lot harsher this year. I had a lot of players go down in value who definitely would not have at this point last year, and I think they've just changed, maybe with the stat keeping. I don't know, but I think they've just changed the way that the values are being adjusted. So a lot of my game plan going into this year was kaput because they're doing it differently now. So that's pretty much all my frustrations in terms of the game. I don't think it's working very well. There's also a big problem with a player from Orlando City who was marked as a DNP. There were players who didn't go into games who were marked as -1s. There was, like I mentioned, the issues with the stat keeping, and so there was kind of a double. Like my overall game rank last night was like 1240, and then after they fixed and adjusted some stuff, it went up. So I'm not complaining about that, but this has not been a smooth start, and I think pretty much all the changes made to the game from last year are all for the worse. But that being said, I do want to move on. I don't want to complain too much. I do still really enjoy this game, but it has been very frustrating. Speaking of frustrating, let's talk about my team. So we'll start from the back, and we'll move from there. Zach McMath, all of Salt Lake, even my Miami players to an extent, but this is just about like the worst double game week haul you're going to see in your life. Oh my gosh, 5 points or 6. He was 5 yesterday. He got an extra point somewhere. Don't know how. 6 is still not very good. It's not the worst, but it's not very good. And I'm shocked. I mean, maybe I'm not. I don't know. His value went down 100K. That feels a little harsh to me. Just a little bit, but you know, it is what it is. Gressel is to me, this was a bust. I think the point system isn't the same as last year. You know, spoiler for my preview video tomorrow, I'm taking all my money out of defense. I don't think premium defenders are going to be worth it at all this year. Not even a little bit. This was a poor haul for Gressel. And it isn't all the new format. For Gressel not getting his points as maybe he would have. He was not good this week. That is true. But I do think that maybe in general, defenders' values, we're going to see them fall because they're just not putting up the points that the game thinks they need to keep or raise their value. But Gressel was also very poor this week. And he doesn't, he's been playing kind of right center, left center, floating throughout the midfield. He's not even a defender, really, but he was not very good this week. Kai Wagner was not particularly good against Chicago, excuse me. But I think 3 points was fair, but it is frustrating the amount of money that I spent on him for no return. He was very good against Saprissa earlier in the week in the CONCACAF Champions Cup, but he was not good against Chicago. He was not particularly good. I think the 100K drop is a little bit harsh, but I think this is harsh to me. I just thought that Jake Davis is most starters in this game are not valued lower than 5.5 to 6, even defenders. So I just think by virtue of him being a starter, a nailed-on starter on a team that conceded 1 goal, that his value would go up. It's dropped. He was not very good, but he was not bad. This, to me, is very harsh. I just think the weighting on defenders or the way they've changed these value drops to me feel very, very harsh. It's only minus 100K, but the only reason I had Davis in here was to build value. So something in the rules has changed, and I just paid the price for it. So very, very frustrating. Very, very frustrating to me. Pablo Ruiz and Diego Luna were not good. Not good for Salt Lake at all. Pablo Ruiz got subbed off early against St. Louis. Diego Luna especially, I think, was very poor against St. Louis. I mean, it's not really like he did much against Miami either, but neither of these guys had a very good week. I mentioned Acosta earlier. Lucky, I think, to go up 0.400. So maybe that'll balance out my complaints about the value changes. But a lot of this, I mean, did he get a bunch of key passes? That's exactly it. He did not have 14 key passes this game. He just didn't. I think there was a point earlier in the game where they had him down for 6, and he'd only made 6 passes or something. It's just any attacking midfielder is so high value right now. So high value. Very lucky, I think, to go at 400K. Wasn't his best game. This is probably my best pick of the week, was nabbing Diego Gomez. He could have scored against Galaxy 2. He was very close once or twice. He had one shot that forced an excellent John McCarthy save. That was really close. He had it. He wasn't even really that great this game. I think he's playing a little bit deeper than he would prefer to. He's a young player. I don't know if he's figuring it out still or if Miami are kind of figuring out what to do with him, but there are a lot of points in both games where he looked a little lost. But, points-wise, I'll take it. Not bad at all. Carlos Hill got the goal, an incredible goal, which was a miracle. When New England went down to 10 men early, I was aghast. I mean, I felt hopeless. So I was very lucky that he got that goal. That definitely helped out my game week quite a bit. Messi, with the key pass thing, this is inflated, but he was quality both games. He did what he does. He was very good. And I don't think in either game he looked very leggy to me either. I know that's because he kind of load manages throughout the game. But I think honestly it's smart. The way he plays now with his body is very intelligent. I mean, he's, it's messy. What else can you say? He was good both games. Fair. His return, the fact that he got points and returned is fair. The key passes has definitely inflated it, but whatever. Here's my scrub. I haven't decided if I feel that this is harsh or not. You would think like he starts a game, 5 million. The 2 goals allowed. It's kind of rough. I mean, where are the saves? I can't even find the save bracket right now. What am I, blind? Goals for assists, clean sheet, penalties, block, clean crosses, goals saved? Goalkeeper saves, okay. 2, I mean, look. He didn't really have to do all that much, weirdly, for a lot of the game, but he wasn't especially good. I think his value should have just stayed the same. I think 100K is a little harsh. It's not the end of the world, but it's whatever. Actually, I take it back. Gomez was not my best pick of the week. Melando was my best pick of the week. Definitely the big out-of-nowhere performer. The goal was huge. The clean sheet was huge. That is really all it took to propel his value and points haul into the stratosphere. If you got him this week, good on you. It was a good pickup. Herbie started the game 61 minutes at 4 million. Value didn't go up. That doesn't make sense to me. Like, I just think last year it goes up. Just think it goes up. 2 points, not even all that bad. This was a last-second pickup. Really, I had to pick him up because of a pretty significant error I made when I picked my team. I'll show you in team points in just a moment. But Joveljic is a player that I've seen a lot of people say is primed for a much improved year, breakout season of sorts. I think that's fair. I mean, he sits in between high up classic target man, a plethora of good, talented wingers for the LA Galaxy. He should profit. I think he will have a good season. He got the goal this game. Besides that, didn't do a ton. Didn't necessarily try or need to. He had a good game. But that is it for my team. In total, my value went up 1,900,000. Not what I hoped for, considering the strategy was to build value. If you go to my team points, pretty quickly you will see the massive error I made. I should have caught this earlier. I should have noticed it right before the 7:30 games on Saturday. But I didn't put in a second scrub because I wanted maximum value building. And basically because of that, I just didn't account for Melanda hauling. I should have seen that 14, and at that time I still thought Bupenza was going to start. If you saw my video last week, I was very high on Bupenza. Coming into this week, basically, like, the way I'd set my team up was only assuming Bupenza was going to go in. It was almost built just assuming Melanda or Herbie or whoever it was at that point weren't going to do anything. And I just should have swapped out somebody in my lineup for a later game time. Because what happened was, pretty much everybody played, Melanda scored, and then I only had one scrub in my starting lineup. Plus an extra striker. So I didn't get Jovicic's points. At the time, it would have been Bupenza's, or earlier this week I had Ferreira for a while before I realized he'd been hurt for a while, I think, but this was a massive error. 10 points on the bench. I'll probably be double scrubbing the rest of the year. I don't think building value is as intuitive as it was last year, and it may just be on me. It may just be my mistake as well. It's probably a mix of a little bit of both, but it was an error. And that was really what hurts the most, was leaving those 10 points on the bench. I wish I had done a second scrub. It's stupid. But that being said, 998, still good, under 14 points. Whatever. Hit on Melanda, that was great. Hill got a goal. Costa did all right. Gomez was a hit. And actually, I mean, Messi's, can't take any credit for captaining Messi. Besides that, nothing. So Really doesn't feel like the best opening game week to me, but it probably could have been worse, and it definitely could have been better. But that is going to be all for me today. Thank you for tuning into the MLS Fantasy Cast. If you like the video, please feel free to leave a like or subscribe. Tomorrow or the day after, I will release my preview of the coming week. Please stay tuned for that, and thank you very much for watching.